What impacts someone's decisions regarding a scientific issue such as COVID-19 or climate change? For instance, what influences someone's decision to, say, wear a mask? In regards to climate change, what influences someone's choice to walk instead of drive somewhere? To what extent do people consider only the scientific evidence regarding these issues when making these decisions? Or are other powerful factors at play? COVID-19, climate change, vaccinations, and other socially contentious issues with scientific facets are all called socio-scientific issues. Research on socio-scientific issues envelopes social, cultural, scientific, and moral facets. Understanding these socio-scientific issues is crucial because they have significant impacts on people and the environment at local and global scales. So, what influences people's decision-making regarding these socio-scientific issues? That's the focus of my research. Effective socio-scientific decision-making begins with how people perceive the science. For instance, my research on undergraduate biology students shows that understanding how COVID-19 spreads is the foremost predictor of COVID-19 mitigating behaviors, such as wearing a mask and social distancing. Furthermore, trust in the CDC to provide the most accurate scientific evidence regarding COVID-19 is highly associated with support for COVID-19 mitigating mandates. However, perceptions about science, they're not the only factors associated with decision-making. In fact, emotions such as empathy and risk perception also play a significant role. If not more important, sociocultural factors and group affiliation play a significant role in socio-scientific decision-making. These non-scientific factors include things such as family, religion, and political orientation. See, people within these groups, they have a shared set of characteristics or identity that shapes how they make decisions. In regards to COVID-19, my own research shows that political orientation is a major driver of decision-making. For instance, my research on undergraduate biology students shows that students that identify as being very far left-leaning on the political spectrum are about twice as likely to engage in COVID-19 mitigating behaviors than their counterparts that identify as being very far right-leaning. So what should be taken away here is that all these students are from the same highly scientific background, thus demonstrating how powerful political orientation is as far as a driver of decision-making. However, the relationship between political orientation and decision-making is not so straightforward. In fact, political orientation can influence scientific perceptions, which then can also influence decision-making. For instance, those same undergraduate biology students, those that identify as a very far left-leaning on the political orientation spectrum, tend to have exceedingly high levels of COVID-19 mitigating behaviors, irrespective of their trust in the science that understands COVID-19. However, their counterparts that identify as very far right-leaning need high levels of trust in the science that understands COVID-19 to achieve the same high levels of COVID-19 mitigating behaviors. So what we see here is that both ends of the political spectrum is that political orientation and ideology drives decision-making in very contrasting ways. So what are the takeaways that we can glean from this information? Well, first, people must draw from the best available scientific evidence and recommendations when making decisions regarding socio-scientific issues such as COVID-19 and climate change. However, they must also take an objective look at their own biases and how those biases influence the ways that they make decisions. So they can ask themselves a series of questions, such as, what are my biases? And in what ways do those biases contradict the scientific consensus? In what ways do those biases influence my decision-making? How is my group affiliation influencing those biases in my decision-making? In what ways do other groups view these issues? And how can I draw from that to augment my decision-making as well? I think if we can consider all of those things, what we can do is we can better work together to resolve these socio-scientific issues that occur at local and global scales. Thank you.